Hello and welcome to Transplants Take on Sport. My name's Lewis Daniels and joining me today is kidney recipient and England and Wales transplant cricketer Scott Fairbrass. Scott speaks openly about his unsuccessful first transplant and thankfully successful second transplant following 7 years on dialysis. We also talk about Scott's cricketing achievements, including playing in Australia before his transplant and winning the Ashes for England and Wales after with a huge score on his debut. This episode is cricket themed, so if anyone would like any premium cricket equipment for the new season, you can use the code LewisD25 for 25% off everything at neoncricket.co.uk. Thank you to Neon for sponsoring me this year. And if you'd like to follow the podcast on social media, all the links will be in the show notes. Scott Fairbrass, welcome to Transplants Take on Sport.
Hey up, are you alright?
Very good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Very good, thank you.
Regular listeners will have heard your name before. It's been mentioned a few times by, I think, Steve and Lee, maybe Matt as well, possibly Joe. Joe says you've got a good story to sell, so you're here.
Yeah, I think that basically means I'm the moron of the group.
Popular figure.
Well, yeah, we'll go with that one then.
For those who haven't gathered, Scott's part of the England and Wales Transplant Cricket Club, so most of this podcast is going to be cricket related with the transplant story in there as well. So to start with, we'll go right back to before you transplant cricket. When did you first start playing?
I first started playing probably when I was about 8 years old. There used to be, like summer camps. You'd get them through at school, and you'd pay so much, and you'd have a 6-week course of whichever you chose. So I used to do athletics and cricket, which was run by a bloke called Clive Jackson, who massively known down at Altofts and basically massively known within the Yorkshire area and also Australia. He was a very, very good man in terms of getting kids playing cricket. He infused us in cricket, and I fell in love with cricket mainly because of him. And then I started playing for a club. I joined Altofts probably when I was 10. So I went to these summer camps, and then I joined Altofts. He asked me to go down to Altofts at 10 to play in their under-13s.
Young for the age group?
Yes.
Were you always pretty good for your age from early on?
Yeah, I seem to. I've always been a quick bowler. That was my discipline, if you like. That was what I was, a quick bowler, and I was always able to bowl pretty quick. And I've always been able to hit a ball like above what my age was. So I was clearing boundary ropes at 12 years old, and like senior boundary ropes at 12-year old and stuff like that. Not that I'm particularly big. I just seem to have that good hand-eye coordination, and I'm fairly strong for my size.
Yeah, I remember the net session I came to that you were at as well, and saying to someone next to me when you were batting that everything sounded like it was off the middle, and the noise it made was unbelievable.
Yeah, I've always been quite lucky in that aspect. Obviously, I'm getting older now; it's getting harder and harder. But in terms of when I was younger, it came easy to me. See, read with me batting. That was my mantra.
Is that your style?
That's my mantra. Yeah, that's what I live by. not so much now.
See ball, hit ball.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, but as I've my health's deteriorated, I can no longer bowl. Now I'm more of a batter in brackets. I take it more seriously and try and play proper shots and keep the ball on the floor and take my time and all that stuff I should have been doing when I was younger, really.
So the safer, more sensible approach now.
That's the one, yeah.
So has it always been your main sport then?
Yeah, really. In terms of playing wise, yeah, I pretty much live for cricket. But not watching it, funnily enough, I never really watched much cricket when I was a child. It was more football. Played a lot of football as well, but watched a lot of football. Whereas cricket, I pretty much only watched the Ashes. So I had an obsession with Australia for some reason as a country. So I'd always watch the Ashes. Always watched all 5 days. If we lasted 5 days back in them days, it ended more 3 days. And that was the only cricket I really watched. But playing wise, I would play every day. That was it. I loved it through the summer. Wouldn't miss a training session. Wouldn't miss a game. Poor mum and dad dragging me all over county playing at various venues for various for Altofts in various leagues and for various representative sides, and yeah, basically I'm well travelled in the cricket grounds of Yorkshire.
I can fully understand where you're coming from. I've been one more into playing than watching, and only recently, the last few years, got into watching a lot more and
Yeah,
following more. I think as you get older, you start to understand the
exactly. Yeah,
game and the tactical side more.
yeah. I mean, I always had quite a good head for the tactical side of stuff anyway. When I would but watching it, I don't know, I don't want to say it bored me because it's not boring, is it? It's probably the best sport there is when if you understand cricket. Um, I don't know. It would. I think because I was young and I always wanted to be outside. It's obviously it takes a lot of your time with cricket to sit there,
Hmm.
and I was full of energy, and I always wanted to be out. And obviously, I was only one in my group of friends who played cricket, so that's where the football came in, and it was always football. Cricket had to go to other sources, other places to play. But yeah, I never really watched it. Only last, I'm playing a bit of catch up in terms of like county cricket and stuff like that. It's only the last few years I've been interested in that, really, which is a shame because I've probably missed out on so much.
Yeah, you've alluded to it earlier, saying that you were playing up an age group and you were playing all over Yorkshire. What sort of level were you playing at when you were growing up?
So in terms of juniors, the best I got to was White Rose, um, which is you basically pick to play against the last age group of the Yorkshire setup as not really a Yorkshire B side, you're just a select basically. And then you play against them players. So in that particular game, the last game I played, there was there was David Stiff who represented Yorkshire and Kent for a few first class games. There was Nick Thornycroft again played Yorkshire first team for a few occasions. Tim Bresnan, who obviously everyone knows. Um, Spinners. Mark Lawson, he played quite a lot of first class, and Dave Wainwright, who played quite a lot of first class as well, spinner. So there was players like that who obviously went on and had a bit of a professional career. Obviously, a few had a bit of longer, into like Tim Bresnan, obviously still playing now. So yeah, that was the highest I got in terms of juniors. Adult in senior cricket, I played Central Yorkshire Prem, which no longer exists. They merged with the now Bradford League. So the standard of the Central Yorkshire Prem, it's not Bradford Premier. That's just a different animal altogether. But there's players in it who would have played in that, but mainly it was probably the tier below the Premier of the Bradford. So a very good standard. Played against some very good players, some ex international players. Sammy Digger, who wicketkeeper for India. Mohammed Asif, who played Test match and one day for Pakistan, off spinner. Always used to get me out, funnily enough. And then people like who played first class in like New Zealand or Australia. Played against a lot of overseas players like that, so very good standard.
Some experiences, and then so the names there that you've reeled off shows it's a good standard. I think my granddad said he used to play in the Bradford League. This would have been it's been a long time ago. I think when it would possibly have been. I don't want to make him seem older than he is, but I'm going to say 70s, 80s.
Yeah,
He once said that he gave I think it was an hour and a half lecture to his class at school on the forward defensive shot.
the most important shot in the book. But yeah, like I mean, when your granddad were playing in the 80s, that will have been in the Bradford League. You're talking like BVS Laxman. I think he will have been there. He definitely played in Bradford League. And I believe it will have been the 80s. You've got obviously players like that who've played Bradford League. That's the standard the Bradford League is. It's a very good standard.
So we combine your standard and the love you've declared for Australia when you were growing up.
Yeah.
You didn't end up going to play in Australia. How did that first come about?
So Clive, who had done the soccer schools and coached at Altofts, his daughter actually lived in Australia because she married the overseas player who came over in the 80s, I believe it was, late 80s. Um, and she moved out there with him. So Clive and his wife used to go out every summer, our winter, their summer, every year for the best part of 30 years. And he'd do coaching over there to earn a little bit of money to keep him kicking over and stuff like that. And he used to take players over regular from Altofts and other clubs. Any player who wanted to go to Altofts, you go see Clive Jackson, and he would set you up. So I ended up playing at the club where he was currently coaching at, which was Carham Downs. And yeah, I had 5 months of my life out there, which was an eye opener.
What was the standard like compared to over here?
Um, it the standard where I was playing, it was probably in between our first and seconds. So it was an all right standard. It wasn't what I was playing because I was playing first team at that point. Mainly, all my games were first team, and it wasn't. And then but I did actually struggle while I was down there, bowling and batting because I was a bit of an all rounder. I would score quite a lot of half centuries and take a couple of wickets and not go for many runs, but it's just because it's hard, bouncy wickets. It kind of went to my head a little bit because I was a quick bowler and I'm only 5'9", and I've never been one to bowl the short ball. And it kind of went to my head a little bit. But what you don't realise about Australians is they're brought up on quick bouncy wickets, and like hooking is pretty much the first shot they learn to play. So it didn't matter how quick I were bowling, it was going further and further and further. So I genuinely struggled down there, and I could not get it out of my head to get my length fuller. And because I'm a swing bowler as well, that didn't help. I did rely on a lot of swing at that point. That was my stock ball, my bread and butter ball, and I did struggle. Doesn't take away from the experience. It was fantastic. I would do it again. If I want as a young 18-year-old, like 'cause I did get quite homesick then. If I was more mature, I know that's hard to believe, but if I was more mature, then I probably would have gone back a second year because Frankston, who were like a peninsula side, they wanted me to play in their second team, which would have been our first team level. Cam Downs wouldn't release me, which rightfully so because they brought me over to house me and stuff like that. So what I should have done was really gone back the second year and played at Frankston, and maybe learned a bit more, learned from that experience, and maybe kicked on a little bit.
Australian club cricket sounds quite serious. Sounds at a decent level. I listen to the Grade Cricketer podcast, and they talk about it all the time. They love their club cricket over there.
Yeah,
And sometimes you see videos online, and they'll talk about it. How, I mean, people who are not that interested in cricket, this might not mean a lot, but you'll see players. I saw yesterday James Pattinson bowling in a club game.
yeah, I watched the same video.
Marnus Labuschagne batting a ball in a club game. Did you get the sort of the current pros coming down to that level? And
No, not the level Callum Downs were at, but where Frankston was. So I did actually go train with Frankston um, for probably about half of that summer. I trained with them in between Callum Downs training, and like the first hour in the second team net, but just watching the first team net, that step is. They were one of their opening bowler were currently being looked at to represent Victoria, and that level is you realise how far away you are. You know, as much as I bullied junior cricket without trying to be too modest, I genuinely bullied it. How quicker than anyone else I could hit the ball further than anyone else. But then when you step up to that senior level, that extra 5% that you need, it's a big 5%.
it is tough.
I mean, he were. I mean, he were quality. He could put a beer mat on a length and he would hit it. I mean, he was that good, and he still wasn't selected for Victoria. That step is phenomenal, basically.
Yeah, if anyone cricketers listening, the step from juniors to senior cricket does take you by surprise. I think I was 14, 15 playing adult cricket, and the stats don't look.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I played my first second team game at 12. I think I just fielded that first game, and I played quite a lot more when I was 13 in second team, and I did okay. Obviously, nothing compared to what you do as a junior player. It's even though you're playing against junior Yorkshire players, if academy players and stuff like that, it's just like you say, it's a big step for any junior. And then when I played my first, then played my first team game at 13, played more 14, 15, 16, obviously, and then all the time. that step is even bigger again.
Yeah.
When you put overseas players into the mix as well, and then it is a different animal.
You see some good ones coming over.
Yeah, some very good. I mean, we had some good players ourselves. Our opening bowler represented Yorkshire all through junior, and it was between him and Chris Silverwood for the Yorkshire contract. Obviously, we know Chris Silverwood is now England coach and play for Yorkshire all his career. So that was the standard.
It is a good level. So we'll move away from cricket slightly. You mentioned that you played football. Was the level you were at there similar to competing with the level you were at for cricket?
No, I very much just played for the village that I played in. We played in a decent league. It was a Wakefield league. It was when I was in my late teens. It was a very good standard. We were competing with county teams in cup competitions. We were beating a few of them, not convincingly, obviously scraping through, but we were competitive. Um, so yeah, we managed to win the league one year. We'd always finishing top three, and we won it, drawing one game, one year. A lot of them teams have gone on to play county amateur, have moved into the county amateur setup. Walton kind of stayed where they were, and the league has diminished in recent years. It's still pretty decent feeder league, but not as much as what it was when I was younger. And then just before I went to Australia, I got picked up by Emily, who were a semi-professional club. I think I trained for about 8 weeks and then said, "Oh, that's it, I'm off to Australia." So yeah, and I never went back. I just went back to play with Walton.
What position were you playing?
Like everyone else who seems to have been on this podcast, I was a goalkeeper.
All the cricketers, goalkeepers.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it?
Are you a good fielder?
Um, I can already hear people laughing. In terms of catching, no. But in terms of ground fielding and throwing, yeah, I was. I was a pretty good ground fielder. Like my position was mainly on the boundary because I had a rocket arm. So I would, well, mainly it would be fine leg because I'd be bowling. So I'd be bowling, then bowling, fine leg, and then obviously if spinners came on or another one coming out, I would be then either into cover, or if it was a spinner, I'd be uh, square leg on the boundary or cow corner on the boundary because I had that arm to be able to throw it flat over the wickets. And not much got past me. I could read it off the bat pretty well, but in terms of catching, no, I'm diabolical.
You still on the boundary now?
No, because I can't throw now. When we get onto the illnesses I've had, my body's kind of like wasted away a little bit, and it throws my shoulder out. I've got pains and like that. I just haven't got them fast twitch muscles anymore to be able to do it.
We'll come towards that now then. Did you manage to play football and cricket right the way up until your first transplant?
Cricket, yes. Football, no. So
I was the same.
so I played football. I, once I made so my kidney function went down to got down to about 7%, and that's when we decided. As you're probably aware, you get really tired, and you can,
Yeah.
everything, even walking upstairs is a struggle. So we decided it's probably best to go on dialysis just to perk it back up, go on the transplant list. Like I said, I got down to 7%. I only had one kidney, so I got down to 7%. Had the tube put in for peritoneal dialysis. Carried on playing football probably for half a season, and don't mind admitting I've lost my bottle. Just diving at people's feet when you've got a tube hanging out your belly,
Yeah.
it's subconsciously, it's there, and I was pulling out of tackles, and it just wasn't right. So I ended up knocking it on the head, and I've never gone back to it since. To be honest with you, I've not missed it.
I was talking about this yesterday with my dad about how I was playing football up until probably about 6 months before my transplant. I avoided dialysis, and I still watch a lot, but I haven't missed playing.
Yeah,
It's strange. I loved it growing up.
yeah, same, exactly the same.
Cricket, I was dying to get back to, and I've got back to. Football, I haven't really missed it. Maybe five-a-side a little bit for the social side, but other than that, not really.
No, I've not missed it. Although I have been in touch with the guy who runs Leeds Transplant Football, just with a view of maybe playing at this year's Transplant Games, which is
Yeah.
hopefully in Leeds. So I may do that this year. Depends on fitness and stuff like that. But yeah, I may get involved in that.
For those who haven't listened to other podcasts that I've done so far, I know we've talked about peritoneal dialysis before, But could you briefly explain it for those who haven't maybe listened to others or know what it is?
Yeah, so basically, I started on what's called solo exchange. So you have to do 4 2 litre exchanges of this fluid, which acts like a sponge, and that sits in your stomach in your peritoneum and your muscles, and it sits there. Um, Basically, your blood goes through, it pulls the toxins out, which your kidney should get rid of in your urine, and then after so many hours, you drain it out, and it pulls fluid out as well. So that 2 litres becomes 2.2 litres, 2.4 litres, depending on how much you've drunk, etc. And then you put another 2 litres in, and that sits there. It's called a dwell. So that sits there dwelling and doing what it does. And then on your night exchange, you'll put a stronger bag in, which I assume has more, lasts a bit longer and doesn't get absorbed itself. And then on the morning, you'll drain that out, put fresh in, and that continues until you get a call.
So going all the way back, when did you first find out that you had kidney problems?
I was born with. I've actually been on the phone to the nurse this morning to get my details because I'm terrible when it comes to myself. So I was born with reflux, hang on, prof- reflex.
Nephropathy?
That's the one, and dysplastic kidneys. So I was born with 2 kidneys, which and basically what them long words are that I can't spell, let alone speak, is urine going back up from your bladder into your kidneys and damaging kidneys. So I had 1 kidney at 5% and one at 75 when I was born. And then I had my right kidney removed when I was 3 in 1987.
Did you know much about
No, I've only just literally found out the name of it today.
that?
I knew roughly what I had, but I didn't know the name. I know vaguely that it was urine back flushing up the valves in the kidneys and causing scar tissue.
At the time, were you aware of what was going on? At 3.
Not that I remember. I think my earliest memory will have been probably around 5 or 6 ish, and having to leave school, go to the hospital, have your bloods done, screaming hospital down because I'm scared of needles and all that. And then that's probably my earliest memory. And that were every 3 months I'd go for blood checks and they'd say, "Oh yeah, kidney's fine. It's fairly stable. It's still on decline because it was degenerative um, disease." So yeah, you're born with 75. Yeah, it's 76 this year. Yeah, so on and so forth. And then obviously you get old, you ask a few questions. They basically said, yeah, you'd probably be on this current trend, probably looking at around 50 before you'd need a transplant. So yeah, I can live with that. Brilliant. Um, anyway, I gets into my teens, and then they tried a new drug out on me for I can't remember what it was. Anyway, I was on this drug for about 6 months because my appointments had gone to 6 months later. Gone for 6 months, and it wiped about 40% off my kidney function. So like obviously that took years off when I needed a transplant.
Yeah.
So anyway, took me off that unsurprisingly, and then so I carried on, and then I got to 20. What was I? 23. When did I have my first transplant? Went on dialysis in 2008. What does that make me? 24. I was 24, and then I was on dialysis.
So you weren't much older than me when I had mine then.
No,
I was 20. So when was the first one happened?
the first transplant.
Yeah.
So the first transplant happened a year and a month after I started on dialysis. So that was the 21st of March 2009, and that lasted for 3 days.
We'll come on to that 3-day bit now. Before we get there, so your first transplant, you've told me before that it came from a cadaveric donor, which for anyone who isn't aware, is a kidney from someone who sadly passed away and had agreed to donate their organs. So I know there's a new organ donation law in now, Max and Kira's law, the name's going out of my head,
Opt out.
opt out law. That's the one. So you're automatically assumed as an organ donor unless you express not to be one, but you still need to make sure that you do have the chat with your family about what you want to happen with your organs when you do eventually die. I know no one really wants to think about that. I don't really like thinking about it. But yeah, have the chat and then you might save someone's life one day, like Scott's. So were you waiting for that year and a half then?
A year and a month, yeah.
Month?
Yeah, so that came pretty quickly. I can't even remember where I was or what I was doing. that one. It's something I've obviously, because it only lasted 3 days. I'm a very matter of fact person that it's been and gone.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, 3 days. Got what's called a major embolism, which is a blood clot, and it starved the kidney of oxygen. I was in massive pain. They tried to save it in terms of cutting the clot out, but it was too far gone, and I got removed. And then I went back on straight back on peritoneal dialysis for about another 6 years.
How do you pick yourself back up? I asked this to Tara, who was on before. How do you pick yourself back up from losing one that quickly?
Didn't really affect me. I know it sounds daft, and people are going to say it had to have done, but it didn't because I've been born with I've known about. I've always been very relaxed about kidney problems because it's something I've grown up with. I've known about since birth, and nothing has ever worried me in terms of kidney transplants or kidney failure or dialysis. I've always known and I've been prepared, and it didn't really affect me because I was doing okay on dialysis. I was still functioning, I was still working, I was still, I was still going out and partying and everything you do as a young adult. So as far as I was concerned, it never stopped me living. It was only towards the back end before my second transplant when the dialysis started being less efficient. That's when I was like, I could have done with that kid to carry on working because I'm in my 20s and now I'm knackered.
Yeah. So the dialysis ran smoothly until then, and then what was it that happened towards the end of it?
You, I believe the peritoneum becomes you, they're not it become less efficient in the dialysis. So I think what happens is the peritoneum doesn't allow as much of the toxins to come through, whether it hardens or whatever. I didn't really ask too many questions. I get apologies because I'm not very good at asking questions about myself. So it became less and less efficient, and I will go into the hospital and, oh yeah, your creatinine's this much, creatinine's that much, it's blah blah blah. And I could feel myself getting worse and worse and tighter and tighter because at the end of the day, my body's poisoning itself. And I ended up lying to the doctors because I was trying to protect people around me. Oh, how are you feeling? You must be feeling. No, I feel fine. As you do, because blokes and we're idiots. Um, and then I went to one doctor this one time. When did I make a transplant? 26th of March. So it probably wouldn't have been around October 2014, and my creatinine was up at 17,500.
Wow.
Yeah, so bear in mind, a normal person ranges anything between 80 and 300, depending on various things. I'm currently 130-ish, and I'm up at 1550. And he says, "Oh, how are you feeling?" It just come. It were a doctor I'd seen when I was more of a child, because more of a paediatrician, kidney specialist. And he said, "Oh, I've not seen you for ages. How are you feeling?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'm good." He went, "No, you're not." Like that. And he could see straight through me, basically. And my weight were down at like 70 kilos. I'm 90 kilos now, so I was 20 kilos below what I should be. I was not eating because your appetite's obviously suppressed because you've got no
Yeah.
kidney function. As you're not. It says, I'm looking at this and I don't know how nothing major has happened to you. It says, if you carry on the way you are in the next 6 months, something major is going to happen to you. I'm like, right, okay. So he said, you need to stopping work because I was working 12-hour days. I'm self-employed, so obviously you do what you do, don't you?
Yeah.
Working. I've got a young. I had Caleb who was 3 at the time, who was just adopted at 10 months old. Obviously, and I knew I wasn't right because I'd come home from work and I'd just literally go to sleep. I was, what I mean, like even on my break times at work, I was sleeping. It was just more sleep than being awake. That's how it was. I was literally poisoning myself. Um, and I had to pack it in end. Um, but yeah, this Dr. Mooney basically says we need to keep more observations on you because this isn't good. We need to do X, Y, and Z. I was constantly having blood transfusions because my potassium were going above 6. So that was like 6.8 and 7 and 7.2. So constantly in and out of hospital with blood transfusions because that will cause heart attack.
The potassium's quite a scary thought because mine got above 6 once. It turned out to be a false reading, but it is quite scary when I don't know if you had the same sort of experience, but you've had your blood tests and then you sat at home doing whatever you're doing. You get a call. "Oh, you need to come to A&E now. Your potassium's high."
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
you Google it. Not that you should, but Google it. That caused a heart attack.
yeah.
Great.
And it is, and the thing is, like, oh, you need to restrict your potassium because you obviously your dialysis isn't working. It's not getting rid of it. You've got no kidney function, so again, you can't get rid of it. You need to restrict your potassium level. Everything has potassium in, or anything that I eat has
Yeah.
potassium in. So I used to love fruit and like so grapes have high potassium. Chocolate, massive fan of chocolate, full of potassium. it's it's like, well, what can I eat? I mean, I don't want to be eating chicken and healthy stuff. I want to be eating chocolate. How I am. But yeah, so yeah, it's scary. I've probably had about 7 or 8 blood transfusions in my time, just because it was just getting ridiculously high and hard to manage. But luckily, after that conversation, about 4 months later, I did manage to get the call. I'd packed in work, I were at home, and it were a Monday, and I was asleep, funnily enough, and my phone went, says, "Oh, we've got a kidney for you." I'm like, "Oh, brilliant." So stumbled downstairs in my tired state, told Louise, my wife, and they said, "Oh, you don't need to come in straight away because it's coming from quite a distance." I, that didn't matter. I were gone. I'd wait in hospital. I wanted, you know, what I mean, I was desperate for it. I was desperate for that.
It's quite a long time to wait. Time you were on dialysis for.
Yeah, because it becomes Groundhog Day to dialysis, and it's like because I'd said like the dialysis stopped working. I want overnight exchanges on a machine which does it automatically for you. Then so I want 9 hours. So I mean, I barely sleep 6 hours now, but I was having to go to bed at like when I was still working when I first went on it. I was having to go to bed at like 8 o'clock, so I could be up for like 6 or whatever,
Yeah.
just to get ready for work. And it's hard to explain, especially like because I had like the 3-year-old at the time, and all Caleb wanted to do was play. It's hard
Yeah.
to explain to him why when I'm laying down I can't play when it's nice outside, and then what's this machine doing, and why am I up to all these tubes, and what's that coming out your belly, and yeah, it were getting hard, mainly because I had a child at the time. I think if I hadn't had Caleb, it'd have been a lot easier, but because obviously you're wary of the little one, then it's a different experience then to what I was used to.
As you've mentioned that, we'll come on to Caleb now. I spoke to Joe about how her and Robin taught their daughter about kidney problems and transplants. Have you been able to have that chat yet?
Um, he knows I've got kidney problems. He knows I've had a transplant, and what I decided to do with Caleb is whenever I went to the hospital, I would take him with me so he could see so he was never wondering. You know what I mean? So he would be there with me. He'd obviously listen, but he wouldn't, you know, he'd be on my phone or something, but he could hear, but he wouldn't understand what was going off, and then he'd come and see me, have my blood taken. And away we go. Just let him know that if I go to hospital, I'll be all right. I'll be coming out, and
Yeah.
I'll be coming home. And I decided to go that route with him, so he's been very comfortable with me being in hospital with kidney transplants and the illnesses that I had after. He was very calm about it. He wasn't panicky or anything like that. He handled it very well. Not in terms of what kidney transplant actually is. I mean, he's 9 now, so I probably could have the conversation with him. He would understand. He's never asked.
Your second transplant, you got the call. Were there ever live donors being worked up to donate at the time?
Yes. So after that conversation with Dr. Mooney, that's when I got like my family together. I said, "Look, I'm not well. I've been telling fibs to you. I need a transplant." My mum had actually offered when I first went on dialysis, and I'd always said no to family members donating to me, uh, purely for my own reasons that I didn't potentially want anyone else I knew and loved to be going through what I'm going through. Obviously, one, if I'd have asked more questions, I'd have known that to be a kidney donor, you have to be fit anyway.
Yeah.
And I know from myself that you can very much function on one kidney because I did it for 24 years. And if I hadn't been on that tablet, I'd have done it for 50 years. But out of my own, probably pride more than anything, I said no to my mum. But anyway, coming back to the original question, yeah. So my dad and then two friends of ours all went for tests. Two of them came back as matched, and one of them was a better match than my dad. So Lee was going through all the tests ready for transplant, and and I will go through the tests and the matching and the all that stuff that they do. And then, but luckily, I got the call and got the cadaver kidney, so he didn't have to go through that.
Was that the ideal scenario for you?
For me personally, yes, I didn't want to see anyone else going through any of that.
Yeah, I fully understand that. Were you more prepared for the second transplant, having been through it already?
Yeah, I knew exactly what to expect. Um, I knew the stages. I knew that I'd go in, I'd have 26 vials of blood taken out of me, then I'd be waiting. They'd say, yeah, it's a match. I mean, I've been quite lucky with both of them in the terms that I've been the only person that's gone for it, because I know sometimes there can be 2 or 3 and then you get sent home, which I don't know how people handle that, to be fair.
It happened next to me on the ward
Yeah, I bet it's
when I was
devastating.
having mine.
That'd be absolutely devastating. So luckily, I've been the only one, and I knew every stage. I knew that I'd be then taken to theatre, I'd go under anaesthetic, and then I wake up in a ward with aircon freezing you to death, and the nurse would bring you a couple of slices of toast. That's pretty much it. So yeah, I was very calm and laid back about it. Again, probably because I've known all my life what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I've prepared for it mentally, um, and yeah, more my wife who was worse than I was.
Has she been with you through the first one?
Yes, yeah, she were there for the first one and the second one. She were a lot calmer for the second one because I were calm. I wasn't obviously worrying her. I sent her home anyway because I knew I'd be waiting, and I didn't want her and Caleb sat around waiting and going through all that waiting stage. So they just went home and reassured him that we'd ring you when he's out, which obviously did. And then they came and saw me that day or the next day, sorry, which would have been the 27th.
Did you ever fear that the same thing would happen with the first one?
No,
Just because of the way you're so
yeah,
calm and relaxed about it.
yeah. If something happens, it happens. I'm not one to dwell on stuff like that. It's been and gone, and you move onwards. You can only move forward in life.
That's a good way to be.
Yeah,
It's the right outlook.
yeah. It works for me. Obviously, it don't work for everyone. I know people need to reflect on what's happened, but personally, that's not me.
So thankfully that transplant did work.
Yes.
How long did it take you from the transplant to get back into playing cricket again,
Oh,
or back to fitness, if you like?
I don't think I have any measurable fitness. Um, so yeah, that was in the May. Um, I probably waited about 3 months.
That's not too bad. I think I was told 6 until I could get back into it. Maybe again, maybe that was too for my own good to stop going too quickly. But 3 months, that's good. That's good.
I wasn't just training. I didn't play. I went to nets and just had a little. I wasn't obviously trying to swing from the hip or anything like that.
Yeah,
We were just more feeling bat and ball, more than anything. And probably my first match, I probably played the last couple of that season. Um, so yeah, it was a lot better than the last couple I played before I was when I was on dialysis, because when I was really ill, that was hard work. I was on my haunches and feeling
it
dizzy.
feels strange,
Yeah, that lease of life a new kidney gives you when you've been to the depth what I was is astonishing.
definitely. Do you wear any extra protection over your kidney when you play now?
No, which I probably really should, because I know you've asked this question to everyone else, and everyone else seems to, but no, it's not something I've even considered.
You use the big wooden thing.
Yeah, I've got a bat in my hand.
I think when I first joined the Transplant cricket team, I asked what protection does everyone wear. I'm not sure who it was. There was a few that said just use the wooden thing in your hand.
Yeah, it is what it's there for, isn't it?
Yeah. Speaking of the England and Wales transplant cricket team, how did you first find out about it?
So I was in hospital, funnily enough, with recovering from what did I have at the time? Norovirus. I'd become very dehydrated because I couldn't get rid of this norovirus. Because your medications obviously mean illnesses take longer. So I was 11 weeks with norovirus, and I spent the last couple in hospital. And I got a phone call out of the blue from a lad called Ash, I lived with him in Australia. He was the bloke who was out of stadium when I played at Cadham Downs. And he rang me. He says, "Oh, how are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm just in hospital at the moment. I'm just recovering from, just on drips, just recovering from this." So, "Oh, I'm in hospital too. I've just had a massive heart attack." I thought, "What?" But yeah, my kidneys failed. I didn't know about it. My potassium again, gone up through the roof, and it's caused me to have a massive heart attack. Um, anyway, this bloke called Kev Green has come and seen me straight away and has got me into the Australian cricket side. And we're touring next year in 2017. Says, you need to get in touch with uh, the England and Wales transplant because we're playing his first match at Dulwich in London. I went, right, okay. So I did. And anyway, so yeah, that's how I got involved through an Australian, funnily enough.
The love of Australians continues.
Yeah, so because obviously I've been in touch with Ash ever since I've been there, and I still am now. We're very good friends, and we do travel together still. Um, so yeah, he got me. He made me aware of the England and Wales transplant because I was not aware of.
So did you both play your first game against each other in that summer?
He'd he'd played a game in Australia for the Lucky Stars, which is the Australian side, and then he'd come over, and then we played against each other, and I made my debut at Dulwich against Australia. Against Australia.
I remember thinking back to the other podcast. That was with Lee, wasn't it?
Yeah, Lee made his debut that day, and um, I've forgotten her name now. Rups, which was our first female player. She made her debut that day as well.
Big day for all involved. Then.
Yeah, it was a good day. I mean, we battered them, which were even better. But yeah, very good day.
How did it feel to be given your first cap and play the game? And I think I said this to a few of the others in sort of unexpected circumstances, playing for your country.
Yeah, it's a weird one to say you're playing for your country when there's I know it's quite a weird thing to say because obviously there's only so many can play for the transplant team,
Yeah,
and you're selected and you play. But playing against Australia, England, obviously that was my dream growing up, was to play for Yorkshire and to play for England and to play in the Ashes. I've done it, apart from the Yorkshire side of it, but I've played for England and I've played in the Ashes against Australia. Done. And I scored a century on debut, so tick, done.
perfect start.
Yeah.
The man of the match on your debut.
Yes. I'm
Get
man of
in.
the series as well after the second one. Which it made it all the better as well because I actually got added to the Australian group chat, and as you can imagine, the amount of slaver I received and gave back. But yeah, there were about six of them were just firing into me on a regular basis. Like they're going to do X, Y, and Z to me and blah 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 blah. Anyway, carry on.
Does that still go on now?
But yeah, so and they were giving me all game as well, and I soon shut them up. It were good.
You still keep regularly in touch with the Australian team now?
Ash, yeah, Ash, I'm in touch with very regular, and one or two others I'll message via Facebook every now and again. Yeah, but they're a good group of lads. They are a good set of lads.
From what I've heard, they do. Yeah, they do sound really good.
Yeah, well, they're trying to organise 2023 to come over again. So
Fingers crossed.
yeah, so hopefully you'll get to meet them.
I hope so. I think I've said this all the time. I'm mega keen, looking forward to getting involved.
Yeah, the good game. Even like as the games we play against our club sides or other clubs, they are good days out. It's a good laugh. We do take it seriously. And there's some good cricket played, but essentially it's there to raise organ awareness.
Absolutely, it's a good way to do it as well. All raising awareness through the sport that we all love.
That's it. Correct. Yes.
I've got a rough idea to what the answer to this question might be, but what have been your highlights with the team since you joined?
Um, well, 136 in my debut, and then
There we go.
and the second test match at my own club at Sandal, I scored 100, retired as well. So that probably them first two games have been probably the highlights in terms of personal thing. But all the lads, just with the exception of probably Dave Parker and Lee Dyer, they're all good lads.
I mean, the things on quite nicely. How important has the social aspect been, especially with the transplant team? Everyone being together and being through the same or similar experiences.
Yeah, well, you've hit the nail on the head there. They know exactly what you're going through. So, like, your friends and your family have an idea, but don't really know. But they know, like the players, they all know that you've been as low as you can pretty much go, and then you're where you are now because you've hit rock bottom and you've come back up again, and it's just good camaraderie between us all.
I completely agree. I know we were having a chat after the last net session, which seems like a long time ago now. So a year ago, it must be.
Yeah, at least, yeah,
And my mum was saying how refreshing it was to see us all sharing our stories and just chatting about what we've been through and open, quite openly discussing it and learning from each other and supporting each other through.
yeah, and that's what it's there for. Part of what it's there for, yeah. It's bounce off other people, and I mean, a few weeks ago, I was working down south in Lincoln somewhere. I forgot to take my tablets. So I got because I knew Adam Newell lived in Lincoln. I said, "Oh, what tablets you on?" so I texted him, I said, "Oh, can I pinch some tablets off you?" And it's just stuff like that. It's just what I mean. And then obviously he's taking my car because I forgot to take my bloody tablets.
I noticed the friendly family feel and that group camaraderie straight away. The story you've mentioned with Adam brings us nicely onto the listener questions because uh, Adam sent me a text before recording and said, "Can you ask Scott
Spelling one, I
if he has?"
refuse to answer.
He said, "Can you ask Scott if he has drug dealers all around the country, or does he just use me?"
I do have my contacts in various locations. Yes.
But he went on to say that I mean, you've already explained the story. You'd gone out without your tablets and knew he lived nearby, and
Yeah.
obviously he was happy to help.
Yeah. I
He
was.
says, "We all look after our elders in their moments of need." Again, showing how England and Wales Transplant Cricket Club are one big family, always ready to help out.
Cheeky get. I'm not that old. But yeah, no, it were great of him to help me out. I was in a bit of a rush that morning. It's not something I do often, but I was in a rush that morning to get down to South End of Lincoln, and I did forget. But yeah, luckily I knew Adam was working near where I was, lived near where I was working. He was happy to help me out. It was great.
It's a situation that I think we've all imagined but don't want to be in.
Yeah, um, it's not nice. I mean, I remember probably a couple of years ago now. I was working in where was I? I was Leicester way, which is a good 2 hours from where I live, and I forgot. I was there for the week, and I completely forgot all my tablets. I remember, like, after my shift, I got back to my digs. I'm like, "Where the bloody hell are my tablets?" And I left them on kitchen top, so I had to drive 2 hours there, then 2 hours back, which I'd already driven 2 hours there. Done a 12-hour shift, and I felt in feathers the entire journey back just to get my tablets. So luckily, I've never forgot like a complete week's worth since. But yeah, it's not a nice feeling. Like
Are
losing
they,
your phone, that's
yeah.
a sinking feeling.
Are they always with you all the time now?
Yeah, so as if anyone follows the Twitter, I've put on before that Sunday night's my drug making up night. So I've got a docket box which will hold 2 weeks worth. So Sunday night I'll make up my docket box for the next 2 weeks, and I split them all up and do all that. And and then that goes on top of me going away bag, so that I know it's definitely there.
It's a good system to have. I've got a refill night as well, and I carry a little, not sure what the right word is, one of those tiny satchel bag things with all my tablets in, the boxes for the immunosuppression, and then the other ones I'm on alpha calcidol, which I think is a vitamin D
Yeah,
calcium style tablet. Don't quote me on that. And aspirin, they're just in a separate little box, and it does work. They're all in the same place.
yeah. And I keep mine in my car, and then at the side of me on my seat when I'm travelling down, so that I know to grab them to put them in my hotel or the house I'm staying in. And then if I'm working a daft shift, so I might be like 4 in the morning, I'll pull one out because I know I need to take one at 10 o'clock. That goes in my
Yeah,
pocket, and you get in a system, and then it works for you.
we've got to be quite disciplined with the. If anyone's not directly transplant related listening, I mean, it depends what tablets you're on. I know mine personally, and you might be similar. I've got to take mine 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, 12 hours apart to keep the levels topped up. I'm not sure what you're on, but it might be similar.
So you can't, you don't want that level dipping too. It's obviously going to dip throughout the day. You want to keep it more of a smoother curve rather than a violent up and down curve. So 12 hours and 12 hours is pretty much what I'm on as well.
You mentioned the Twitter in that last bit we were talking about. You are the man behind the England Transplant Cricket Twitter page at eTransplant. If anyone wants to go and follow it. How did you end up taking control of that?
Jo who runs us, who's been on a few weeks ago. She basically tried to run it all. So I'm not very good with admin and stuff like that, and I'm on my phone a lot with work anyway. It just seemed I'll take over the Twitter and I'll try and promote us and get a bit of a following so more and more people know about us. So I'd just approached her. I said, "Do you want me to take over the Twitter and I can try and get us a decent following?" And obviously I'll just talk a load of crap sometimes because you get bored at work and what else am I going to do? But yeah, so I try and keep it kidney and cricket related. I sometimes go off on tangents, but I do try and keep it along them lines. Sorry, not just kidney, organ transplant. Sorry. But yeah, I've got quite a few followers since I took over. I'm up nearly 2,000 now, and I follow some very interesting people, and learn quite a lot. Get riled by some of it, which I can't respond to, which annoys me.
You're doing a great job with it. You tweet a lot, and it's all a lot of it's useful and relevant, and it keeps the engagement going. People respond, people get
Yeah,
involved, join the conversation. Far better at tweeting than I am. If anyone follows the Transplants Take on Sport podcast Twitter page, it's new podcast out, or we'll see you in a week, then there'll be another tweet. I'm trying to get better at that.
yeah. It's literally just because I'm at work and I'm bored. That's I might as well do it while I'm getting paid for it.
I first followed it when I found out about the team, and it was good to see. I think it was during the summer when I had my transplant, and seeing, I think you're putting updates from matches on and scores and scorecards. It was nice to see how the team was doing before joining.
That's obviously when the cricket starts. That is when what a lot of content will be about the matches coming up and current match situations and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I try my best. I think I'm a bit better. I think spelling and grammar's got a bit better since I first started.
No one's too worried. I don't think it'll be better than most on Twitter.
Yeah, so there's some stuff that's quite ineligible.
Scott, it's been a pleasure to chat to you today. We've got another listener question, which worked quite nicely with the time we're in now, and has been shielding, extremely vulnerable. Have you had your vaccine dose now? Your first one?
Yeah, I had it probably 5 weeks ago now. All good, feeling fine. No one's interested in my thoughts. No one's trying to control me. Oh yeah, the Tinat File Brigade can stop tweeting.
The question came in from Dave. It says, "How's the homeschooling going?"
No comment. My son's 9 year old and he's learning about frontal verbials, and to this day I still don't know what they are.
Are you finding any learning from it? Because some of the stuff might be like the history things that might come up. I haven't got kids. I'm 22 and single. Some of the history stuff and maybe science, history for me anyway. I didn't study it beyond the age of 13. That would all be new and things to learn.
Yeah, so we were doing about Shackleton, who did something. So I haven't really. I'm going to say I did something, so I haven't really learned that much. He did something in the North Pole. He did an expedition to the North Pole. Got stuck, and I think him and his crew sadly died because of it. So he's learning about Shackleton and his ship. I'm going to get this wrong. I know I am. I don't want to say. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to give Parker and Dyer any ammunition.
We'll leave it there then. Scott, as I said, it's been a joy. I'm learning from everyone, and your story is an inspirational one. You've been through a lot with your illnesses and your kidney transplants, and it's good to see you back playing cricket and doing what you love, spending time with your family, your kids. One more question before we go, and I ask this to everyone. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone facing a transplant?
Uh, Probably not helpful to a lot of people, but don't worry about it. That's that's just simple as just it's what will be will be. That's all I can say really, because that's how I approached it.
I think it's a good point because I worried a lot, and people will worry about it. But
It is natural to
yeah,
worry. I will add, it is natural to worry. It doesn't achieve anything. For me personally, it doesn't achieve a thing, and it you are in the best possible hands.
yeah,
We have got a first class NHS system with first class doctors, and they know 100% what they are doing. Any complications that will or may arise, they know how to combat that problem. Put your trust in them doctors because they are the mutt nut.
personally, I worry if I know that if looking back now, it's easy Captain Hindsight. But looking back, I know that if I hadn't worried, the same thing would have happened anyway. I'd have had a transplant, and now I'd come through the side of it.
Exactly. And in
But
fact,
again, easier said
the
than done.
the worrying probably put your blood pressure up to start with, which wasn't helpful.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm a very relaxed person. I don't tend to get worked up or worried about many things in life. I never have done. That again, it's not helpful for anyone to hear that. For some people to hear that, that's just me and my personal experience.
Scott, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure people will love to hear what you've said and hear your story, your outlook on kidney transplants, which I think is quite refreshing to hear. The sort of don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. All what happens happens. Que sera, as you said. What will be will be. Uh, I'm gonna start singing now. Where were we? Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. If anyone does want to check out the England and Wales Transplant Cricket Club, you can go to Twitter and follow at eTransplantC. You can see Scott posting about. You would be posting about a test match at the time of recording, but
No,
yeah, that was over quickly.
we're over in 2 days with a dodgy pitch.
So yeah, go over there, check out the Twitter page, check out the team on Facebook as well, England and Wales Transplant Cricket. If you're enjoying the podcast, as always, please make sure you go and subscribe, follow wherever you normally listen. Please do tell your friends, spread the word. Let's get more people listening. If you don't like it, tell your friends you did anyway. We'll take them; they might like it. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, that is the most listened to or most used app to listen to the podcast on. So if you're listening on there, it really would mean a lot to me if you could rate it 5 stars on the show page, even give it a review, a nice review, and 5-star reviews, as I've done in the past. I will read out on the podcast. If you'd like to follow the podcast on social media, we're on Instagram and Facebook as at Transplants Take on Sport Pod and Twitter at TTOS Pod. And with the announcement of the...
Shackleton ship was called the Endeavour.
There we go, we learned something new. With the announcement of the roadmap out of lockdown, I know I'm looking forward to getting back to performing, doing magic at weddings, parties, events, getting involved in variety shows if possible. So if you're looking for someone to perform at your wedding, your party, whatever it may be, once it's safe to do so, bearing in mind I have had a kidney transplant, so I will be taking it steady. Follow me if you want. I'm on Twitter at LewisDaniels25, Instagram at Lewis_Daniels25, and Facebook at LewisDanielsMagic. Might as well get a bit of self-promotion in there. Thank you again to my guest today, Scott Fairbrass. I've been Lewis Daniels, and you've been listening to Transplants Take on Sport.